Good afternoon. We'll get started in just a minute or so. We want to give people the opportunity to join, and then we'll jump right in with CMT's Candid conversation with commuters on this snowy afternoon. Good morning. On behalf of Citizens for Modern Transit, I'd like to welcome you to our conversation today with Metro Transit to discuss current service levels, the new fare collection project, Metro call ride improvements, the latest construction updates at stations, the secure platform plan, transit expansion, possible service changes, and much, much more. We have a lot on the agenda today, so welcome everyone. And everything we're going to be talking about today has come from riders in the St. Louis region about information that they're interested and want to hear about. I'd like to do a special welcome to FTA Region 7 Administrator Carrie Butler, who has joined us for our conversation as well this morning. First, though, I'd like to turn it over to the CMT's board chair, DeAndre Braddock, for a welcome. DeAndre?
Thank you, Kim. And thank you to all of the CMT board members who have joined us this morning. I would also like to thank our CMT Platinum sponsors, including AARP in St. Louis, Bi-State Development, the City of Fairview Heights, Greater St. Louis, Inc., HNTB, and the St. Clair County Transit District. Again, thank you to all of our sponsors, as we would not be able to provide these updates without your continued support. In my day job at St. Louis Community College, I serve as the Chief Engagement Officer, and I work with our students and employees every day who are impacted by route cuts, changes, and other fluctuations in our transit system. These types of conversations hosted by CMT provide a unique opportunity for writers, employers, and operators to have an open dialogue with our transit agencies to get your questions answered. It is really imperative that we work together to ensure that everyone has transit access, and I look forward to participating this morning. I'm now going to turn it back over to Kim to get us started. Thank you.
Thanks, DeAndre. So our discussion today will feature Trinice Winters, the Assistant Executive Director of Metro Transit. Welcome, Trinice. Jessica Gershman, Assistant Executive Director of Planning and System Development at Metro Transit. Welcome, Jessica. Tim Nittler, Senior Director of Capital Projects at Metro Transit. Welcome, Tim. And Tom Kern, Executive Vice President of Administration at Bi-State Development. Welcome, Tom. Today, we're going to provide a forum for riders and the general public to ask questions about anything tied to transit operations. As the Regional Transit Advocacy Organization, we feel it's really important that we have an opportunity to get these questions answered by riders and members of CMT and what can be expected in the first couple of months of 2025. We have received numerous questions from riders over the last several weeks through social media and our email inbox, but on today's call, if you have a question, please feel free to place it in the chat box or the Q&A, and I will get to as many as possible, as quickly as possible over the next hour. We're going to start by asking our panelists to provide a quick 2-minute introduction as to who they are and their role within the agency. Then we're going to jump right in with question and answer. So to begin, I'd like to welcome Trinice this morning. Welcome, Trinice.
Good morning, Kim, and thank you for having me. Again, my name is Trinice Winters. I'm the Assistant Executive Director of Metro Transit. So my role at Metro is I'm responsible for operations, MetroLink, MetroBus, and Colorado Paratransit operations, as well as training for all three divisions and the Operation Control Center. Here at Metro, I've been here at Metro over 20 years in operation management, and I'm excited to be a part of this platform today.
Thank you, Trinice. Jessica, welcome to the chat.
Thanks, Kim. Jessica Gershman here, Assistant Executive Director for Planning and Systems Development for Metro Transit. Our division is responsible for service planning and scheduling, so where your buses and how frequently your trains run. We have our customer service department, the folks that you call and text and email when you're wondering where your next bus is or you want to plan a trip for the next week. We have a research department, so we keep and track and process and report out data about how our system is operating. And we do long-range planning and innovative services where we're thinking about things like microtransit pilots and mobility hubs. So I'm a U-City resident, took the train down this morning. We were chatting earlier about what a nice way that was to commute today in the snow. And I'm happy to answer questions about Metro Transit service today. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. So now let's turn to Tom. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Kim. As Kim said, I'm Tom Curran. I'm Executive Vice President of Administration for Bi-State. And for the past 2 years, I've been leading our fare collection program project, which will completely replace our existing fare collection system. There's 3 components for the new fare system. The first is installation of new validators for Metro Bus and Metrolink. For Metro Bus, the new validators will be located on the right side of the entry as passengers board. You can see that in the left image on your screen. We've already installed the new validators on board every Metro Bus, and you may have seen them covered with a sticker announcing that there will be a new way to pay coming soon. The bus validators will be activated this spring, and at that point, they will be able to read e-tickets. E-tickets are already available through the Transit app, and many of our customers are already familiar with that application. In the spring, we'll also be launching our own Metro app for e-tickets as part of the validator app activation. Customers will be able to use either the Transit app or the new Metro Transit app to purchase e-tickets. Then they'll be verified using the new validators. Later this year, the same type of validator is going to be installed in front of the new gates for each Metrolink station. So that's the image that you see on your right. These are going to be on a stainless steel pedestal, and when valid fare media is presented, then the validator will unlock the security gate to allow access to the light rail trains. The second part of the fare collection program is replacement of our ticket vending machines, or TVMs. This is, I think we have some images to show. This is production of our first prototype TVM. The TVMs are going to be installed at every Metrolink station and 3 transfer centers later this year. They'll sell tickets, passes, and smart cards. And then the third and final part of our fare collection program will be replacement of the fare boxes on all Metro buses, and a request for proposals for the new fare boxes is currently in progress. So we're excited about all of the progress we've made towards renewing our fare collection system, and we're really looking forward to rolling out these new features in 2025. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And I'm sure there will be lots more questions about the new fare collection system as we move through our conversation today. So last, but certainly not least, let's welcome Tim Nittler. Tim?
Hi, Tim Nittler. I'm the Senior Director of Capital Projects for Metro. We manage, design, and construct all of the larger infrastructure projects for both Metro and Bi-State development. I'm here to answer any questions people may have about ongoing construction or future projects.
Great. So welcome everyone, and really thank you for your time today for this conversation. And as a reminder for everyone who has joined us in the audience, please place your questions that you may have in the chat box or the Q&A, and I will get to them as quickly as possible. So let's jump right in. We have been talking over the last year and a half, and we have had some questions from riders. Where do we stand on our operator base? This may go to you, Trinice, but what does our operator team look like? Are we there, quote unquote, yet? Are we at a full complement of operators? And what does that look like for the service profile moving forward into 2025? Will riders see more frequency or an expansion of the footprint of service?
So we are there. We are there. We have our full complement of operators for paratransit, for Call Ride, as well as Metro Bus. And we are approximately 5 operators short in Metrolink, and we will have a class to start up in a month or so with Metrolink. Okay. So we are there as it relates to operators. Our service profile right now in 2025, and Jessica, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this. We have the operators we need to run the service that has been designed for us today for 2025.
So with that, when we talk about we have the plan for 2025, Jessica, does that mean there it'll be status quo for 2025, or will we see any increase of frequency or increase of service in Missouri or Illinois this year?
So 2024, we did a couple of really big increases. In June, we increased, actually in January, we did a sort of an interim service change because of the increase in operator availability, and we restored some frequency. Then in June, we did sort of a proper increase in frequency. And then, as many of our customers know, in December, we changed a couple dozen routes and added more frequency back. So basically, at this point, we need to let 2 or 3 quarterly changes go and cycle through to let those changes that were bigger from last year settle. So right now, you know, we're planning on scheduling, sort of refining our scheduling connections, hearing feedback, of course, from customers about where there are still pinch points. But the plan is to try to maintain where we're at, because we're at a level where operations, as Trini said, is able to manage where we're at, and we're much, much better at meeting the demand that's out there. So we'd like to let it breathe a little and make sure that we've got what's on the street now correct. And notably also St. Clair County has made their sort of final improvements for their transit vision, and that's been great and went in service in the sort of final capacity in December. So we'll be making tweaks again to respond to customers, but we need, you can't keep fixing something when you don't know how what you put in place is going to settle. So we're not planning for major frequency or service changes this coming calendar year.
Okay, great to know. Okay, so one more question back at you, Trinice. We have a full complement. That's probably the first time we've heard that on one of these conversations in several years. So kudos to Metro Transit and all of the operators that are on board. Is there any plan in place, anything being done to incentivize them to stay with Metro Transit? Any new benefits? What does that look like? And if someone is interested in an operator role, what are the opportunities there in this community?
So the benefits that we currently have are part of our collective bargaining agreement. For operators, we are no longer advertising the sign-in bonus because we are fully staffed. However, we're still hiring. We have a hiring event on the 25th of this month. It has been postponed until the 25th by the weather outside has caused that. So we're asking for our community to please still apply because we are still hiring. We started a class this week, Monday of this week, with I believe 15 bus operators and 15 van operators. So we definitely are still hiring because we lose operators with attrition. What are we doing for retention? The benefits here are really good as a part of our collective bargaining agreement. And we have put things in place like priority routes and shift differentials. So that's something that we do. We also have a mentorship program that will help our first year operators. We follow them for a year. They're paired with a mentor to assist them day to day with what it takes to be a professional bus operator or van operator or Metrolink operator. So, and a mechanic as well, because the mentorship program has now been pushed down to mechanics. So we're doing everything we can to retain our team. So we're constantly looking for other avenues or other ideas to help us. So.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's good to hear that there is still opportunity at Metro. So Tom, never fear, there's questions about the fares. So couple of questions. Will people still be able to use a paper pass like it is now, or a cash fare as we move into the new fare collection system?
So we will always have the opportunity to pay cash, either directly upon boarding a bus or at the TVMs in the future. So cash is never going to go away. And in regard to tickets, the fare media will change. There will be new fare products that will be produced by the TVMs. We'll have both smart cards, and we'll also have limited use media for like a 3-hour pass and a day pass. So that will be an RFID type of ticket. It will still be light paper, it'll be thin. It's called an ultralight. And if you really need just a single ride, there will still be an available paper ticket just for a single ride on Metrolink or Metrobus. If you're paying using your phone, of course, you don't have to do any of that if we launch our account-based ticketing later in the year. But really, we're trying to expand the menu so that you can pay in any number of ways. We purposely decided to not take away cash, as some systems have moved to. We want to be as flexible as we can and serve everybody in the community.
Great. Thank you, Tom. We have a questions come in about, and this goes back to bus services. What is the best way to answer, "Where's my bus?" I text according to the sign at the stop and don't seem to get good information from that. Is there a plan to improve communications? With the infrequency of a lot of the bus routes, this is critical to make the system more usable for anyone with a schedule.
I can start. Trinice, you want to
Okay.
jump in? First of all, can everyone hear me okay? Is my
Yes.
okay, great. So Mr. Splatter, that is the correct way to do. There's a number of things. There's our transit app, which pulls information and has real-time information. And when let's say a trip maybe doesn't get out, 10 minutes after it's supposed to pull out, that trip gets its cancellation. And so you'll see a strike through in transit app. So transit app is a good resource for that real time on the bus side. But yes, our customer service team has access to our automatic vehicle locator, our AVL program. And so when you text in or call them, they basically have like the freshest source of what the bus status is. So without, maybe we could talk offline without more detail about specific routes or issues. I don't know if that's been this week when it's been a little bit trickier to track, or just in general if there have been issues, but that AVL is the source of, where the bus is located, and if a trip's been missed, or if it's, 7 minutes delayed, and generally the customer service agent is able to say, hang tight, another one's coming, it's just behind, or that trip got missed, look for your next one. So Trinice, I don't know if you want to share anything else about the BOC side.
Well, BOC just monitors, right, the AVL system and makes sure that every trip that's out there is in the system. And if a trip is not out there, they take that out as well. A bus is not out there, they take that out as well. But I believe you answered that correctly, Jessica, with customer service looking at our AVL system. They will be able to get the most accurate information, or through transit app, which is also pulled from our AVL system.
So when we're talking about feedback, and this individual just had a question about where their bus is currently, we get a lot of feedback when we saw some of these service changes in 2024. So what is the best way for a rider or passenger to let Metro know if that service change may not be working as great as someone might need it to? For example, we have one rider who's contacted us several times about the number 76 and the connection at North Hanley to Metrolink. There might be some lag time and they're missing the connection to the train. So tell us, that's just a very specific, but what is the best way for riders, passengers to let you know if a service change or some service that's on the street now is really missing those connections? What's the best way for them to give you feedback?
So all the ways are great. So if you want to go through a partner because you're comfortable and you know how to reach out to CMT, please feel free. Sorry to put the onus on you, Kim and Travis, but you pass it along to us. But really, customer service, Metro customer service is there for this very reason. So calling or texting or emailing our customer service agents to make sure that we're flagging it, that goes into a system that then is assigned to the right investigator. So the ones that have to do with, look, the connection at Maplewood Transit Center is, the 31 to the 57 is not lining up for me at this time of day. That comes to my team. And then we can make adjustments for the next 12 or 14 weeks later. I will say that for folks, a lot of times it is difficult to make an adjustment for one person when on the whole, our field work, our operator feedback, and our other customer feedback might be that the route is working. So that might be why sometimes people feel like we're not able to make a change. But mostly it's just give us time, let us get to that next quarterly service change, go through customer service, but all the avenues, if it's a partner, if it's emailing if it's, you know, things that go to our board or our executive leadership, they come back to Trinice's operations team or to the right place in planning or the right place in IT. We also have, you know, these quarterly community connect meetings. They're regularly scheduled now where folks, if you want to come out and talk to somebody in person or you want to have a virtual session like this, you can, you know, come in and speak to us there. The next ones are, I believe, in early February. So whether it's an in-person or it's a chat on the phone or it's an email that you want to send off, all of that gets gathered and disseminated to the right place.
Great. Thank you very much. So, Tim, let's talk construction. We had lots of calls about the 8th and Pine Metrolink station and its construction length and time frame, and so we're excited to see it open for business. What's happening at the convention center station now, and what does that time frame look like for riders to the opening of that station?
Sure, and I appreciate everybody's patience during the construction of 8th and Pine. We encountered some differing conditions than what were originally planned for, so that took us a little bit longer than what we were hopeful of. But on Convention Center, we're just started this week, and unfortunately, we basically lost the whole week due to weather. They have got some of the barriers put in place, and they're mobilizing their equipment to the location. But we're not starting off real good, but we hope to catch that up. The contractor schedule for the convention center is 4 months, and now that doesn't take into account weather delays or any other delays that may be encountered. But we're very hopeful that later this spring we'll have convention center up and running and looking good, just like 8th and Pine is.
Great. And what exactly will that construction project include what will that rehab project look like, Tim, for convention center?
So first and foremost, we're removing the old escalator system and constructing a new staircase in those locations. So both escalators will come out, new staircases will be put in. We'll upgrade all the lighting within the station. We'll paint the walls at the station. We'll install new signage and wayfinding and update the signage that's on the walls and whatnot. So it'll be very similar to the work that was performed at 8th and Pine. Just a refresh of the entire location, if you will.
Okay. Okay, great. So, well, let's stay on construction for one more topic, Tim. So we had quite a few questions about the secure platform plan. So is it possible for you to give us an update on the gating system? What stations are open? And when is completion estimated for the entire alignment?
Sure. Can I share my screen real quick?
Uh-huh.
Let me get that done. Okay, can you all see that?
Now we can. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so basically the project is broke up into 4 different parts. The initial part was package 1, and in that package we had 4 locations on the Illinois side that we installed the secure fencing and the gating. That was Emerson Park, JJK, Washington Park, and College. So all those locations were completed fall of last year. We still have some cleanup work to do, but for all intents and purposes, that project is done at this point. The second package is ongoing. 7 locations on the Missouri side. So that one we've got Delmar, Forest Park, Central West End, Cortex, Grand, Union Station, and Civic Center are all under construction. 2 of those locations have been finalized at this point. So both Delmar and Cortex, within the past couple weeks, the final pieces of fencing and the gates have been put in, and those are up and operational. We look to get the other 5 locations of this package finalized within the next month or 2. So February timeframe for completion of all 5 of the rest of those locations. So that's where we're at currently with our construction projects. However, we've got 20 additional locations and 8 locations in Illinois out to bid right now. So the contractors are looking at those plans and specifications and preparing their bids for a bid letting later this month. It'll be 2 different packages, one in Missouri, one in Illinois again. But that will complete out all the work that will be necessary to secure the entire system. That project is slated to be completed in very early January of 26. So once again, depending on weather or potential other delays, our schedule is for early 26 completion. Hopefully we can stick to that as close as possible, and then the entire project will be wrapped up.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Mhm.
So to piggyback off that, have you had feedback from riders at any of the stations where the gating is already opened?
We have not received any feedback, any major feedback, if you will. We get daily input from our riders, but most of them like the system. But we haven't gathered much input in regards to what we're doing out there.
Okay, from a metric standpoint, have we seen an uptick in ridership or fare revenue at those stations where the gates are complete?
I think it's too early to tell yet, Kim.
Okay, I always like to ask, Tim, so
Yeah,
thank you.
I think once we get the entire system secured, I think at that point, then we'll be able to get some meaningful information.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about speaking of metrics, let's talk a little bit about ridership. So we've been hearing, and we had a rider ask, what does ridership look like compared to the last couple of years? Are we seeing an uptick in ridership in St. Louis on the Missouri and the Illinois side? What does ridership look like now?
A slower and steady year over year increase, both sides of the river. I wouldn't say anything is astronomical, but it's what you would expect as people's travel patterns are changing, and perhaps jobs have changed and more offices are open. We have seen some of that restoration, but it's there's a lot of things at play, and as we're working on our state of good repair and a lot of the projects you were just chatting about with Tim, those can be those are like long-term investments. So somebody might see that we are running construction schedules and feel like that doesn't fit with their schedule, but that'll be something that enables the system to be there for them in the long run. So I would say the patterns are not it's slow but steady growth, and we're making a lot of investment now both on the system and actually the systems that collect the data. We're making infrastructure improvements to the sensors and basically those small computers on the train that collect data that haven't been updated in over 20 years. That'll help us with this kind of reporting too. So yeah, Illinois had a much quicker recovery after the pandemic. As you know, it's like 15 or 20% of overall bus and light rail ridership is based in Illinois. And they, there's a strong ridership base there and it pops back up more quickly, but it's been more even as of late. So another big part of this, Kim, is that as we've been able to restore more frequency and service where people need it to be and that they can plan their lives around, that's going to make it more reliable for folks. And so as we've come out of this, the workforce shortages and some of the struggles with missed trips and not being able to serve everywhere we want to, it's not like an immediate bounce back. So it's something for us to be paying close attention to this year.
Okay, great. So has there ever been any consideration when we're talking about giving riders information of an online dashboard at Metro Transit, similar to what's being done in Kansas City, where they're providing ridership information and they're providing on-time performance metrics and other information like that? Has Metro ever considered anything like that for riders in St. Louis?
Yes, we've been working to develop something as we improve our sort of back end processes for automating the data so that it's not a manual task. But I think the first thing we'd be able to share publicly on a regular and reliable basis would be ridership by line, so by route, and then the 2 Metrolink lines. And then we may add other metrics like schedule adherence, something like an OTP on top of that as it goes along. But yes, that's something that we've definitely been wanting to roll out and are looking at for this coming calendar year.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Jessica, you just talked a little bit about investments in software. We had a couple questions about what do the updates with CallAride look like? You know, I think about a year and a half ago, we talked about an investment in scheduling software for CallAride, the phone system, and you had an ADA consultant on board. So where's Metro in that process of updating CallAride services?
I'll take that. So the ADA consultant will be here in a couple of weeks. We are still working with him. We have training for our staff on ADA sensitivity training that will happen within that time frame when he's here, and he'll be doing some additional work for us as well. The upgrade to the phone system that has been completed. I believe the phones are running smoothly for the most part. Every now and then we may have something to go down, but we quickly get it right back up. I will say the call volume in the early mornings have decreased, so that has helped us. I believe our customers are now more confident that they will get the trips that they booked. They're looking to book. So we've had over 2 months of no denials. So we're doing better in that aspect. So the phone system is working as intended. Also, the launch of Spare, which is our new software, we're looking to launch that. We have been launching that into 3 phases. The first phase was our internal testing. We have been doing that since November. Phase 2 is our internal launch. Our internal launch is slated for Monday, January 13th. And that will affect our reservation call center and our dispatch area. And then phase 3 is our external launch. And that's our customer communication tools, which will include an app, web booking, and customer notifications. So if customers want more information on phase 3 of the launch, which will take place in February, they can contact our CallAride team and they will give them more information on that.
Okay. Okay, great. So when we're talking about ADA compliant, we have a question, you know, what about the bus stops? So CMT has dipped its toes into transit transformation, and that includes both light rail stations and stops. So what is the process? Is it Metro who is looking at the hundreds of bus stops in the St. Louis market, or is it your goal to partner with local stakeholders, municipalities? What is that process to examine a bus stop, whether there's a bench there or anything there besides a sign or not, and to move that process forward so that we have some better amenities at some of our stops in this region and that they are ADA compliant?
So we are focused on ADA compliance at bus stops, perhaps more than broader amenities. So shelters and seating are important and are identified for us by partners, but we feel like baseline, we need everything to be accessible for all users right now. And so it's slower than we'd like, but the process is this. Yes, we operate on other people's property and roadways and right. So we do need to create those partnerships. Right now we have, I believe, 3 different tranches of money where we've sought out federal through various federal funding sources. So the 5310 program that some of our attendees will be familiar with, that is administered FTA through East West Gateway Council of Governments. We've been lucky enough to get some money there. And so we're partnering with the county on specific stuff. So we keep a record. Metro Planning does assessments of every stop in the system, and we have a detailed, basically a system where somebody can be in the field and update inputs about grading or conditions, or if something needs a replacement. So we have this master basically backend spreadsheet. And then we use that, look both at demographic data. So we make sure we're prioritizing areas that we want to make sure we're serving. We are looking at other sort of surrounding infrastructure conditions, and we're hearing from stakeholders. So when we hear customers, when we hear from elected officials, when we hear from businesses, we're layering all those things over each other. So the three areas, sort of pots of money that we've secured that we're working with both the city and the county on right now to push forward, those have come across like through a number of different filters and metrics. The next step is to get it out for competitive procurement and make sure we're hitting the next construction season and we're having a good package that people want to bid on. So it's, like I said, slow but steady. It's 200 stops out of the 2,000 plus that we need to address, but that's the way we're chipping away at it.
So, Citizens for Modern Transit, again, just like I said, has dipped our toes in a little bit of these transit transformations. And actually, it was an eye-opening experience for us. For example, in Maplewood, the bus stop in Maplewood, the transit agency didn't own anything but the sign on the pole. So the bus shelter itself was owned by the city of Maplewood. The land that it was sitting on was owned by a private company. And so as members of the transit agency, employees of the transit agency, we're always also looking at this from an advocacy perspective. What is the opportunity for riders to reach out to their local cities or their local communities where they may be catching the bus or the train, to really the buses, to ask for assistance with bus stops? I mean, is Metro willing to partner with local municipalities or other stakeholders in the community to ensure that we see some movement on improvement at bus stops?
So there's great examples of those smaller scale partnerships where we'll work with a business district or a private developer. Notably, we worked with Dahmer Divine to make sure that there was a sort of a transformative shelter for their new development. So those are more one-off and are coming to us through, basically public engagement and stakeholder input. And we do our best to have sort of equity across the region to make sure that we're focusing on hearing from stakeholders from all corners of the region. But historically, that has been people approaching us in planning. Our director of long range planning, Brian Rogers, who isn't on today, is the keeper of that program essentially, and is able to kind of keep those partnerships and executing on them up in the air. So we do as many as we can, but what I was describing earlier, where we look at our bus stop assessment and then try to use more data and performance metrics, that's just like us cranking through as many as we can underneath all of that.
Okay. So let's pivot a little bit. So let's talk about that first last mile. We had a lot of questions from riders about VIA service. We noticed recently there was a change to the North Service Zone area to improve service reliability. What did that look like? Why was that service change implemented? And what is the goal for VIA moving forward?
So the VIA changes are a long time coming. As we've long said, when we started our microtransit pilot with this company called VIA, it was meant to be an extension of and a complement to our fixed route network, right? So we developed this in late 2019, and by the time it was getting implemented in spring 2020, it was being used more as a substitute in some places where we didn't have the full complement of bus operators. So now that we've been able to restore more bus service frequency and lines in near North County and in South and West County, we can get more precisely down to how microtransit is meant to be used, which is that first last mile extension of bus. So the changes that were implemented earlier this month were twofold. We've removed an area of that only had nighttime service for VIA because we've been able to build back up bus in that area. We did that last June. and we let it kind of live, and there was quite a bit of overlap, many months of overlap. So this was just, you know, executing on something where we need to overall be more efficient with our transit dollars, right? And then in December, we were able to restore bus service to some areas in South and West County that enabled us to implement a second change to be where there's now a distance limitation. We have these massive 40 plus square mile zones in the north and the south in particular, are really big, much, much bigger than microtransit is intended to be and is normally executed across the country. And so the distance limitation is going to allow us to address the biggest customer complaint we've been getting lately, which is trip availability and reliability. So when you have a van that might be picking up 2 or 3 people, but is traveling 10 plus miles, it is monopolizing that van and being able to create a sort of handle more and smaller and shorter length trips. So I think it's just over 90% of existing VIA trips won't be impacted by the distance limitation, which is set at 7 miles. For those 10-ish% of trips, we understand that this is going to be a change, because basically we'll be saying, we need you to take a bus part of the way that you didn't used to, where you used to have a single seat microtransit ride. But it's all part of, you know, upholding our agency's provisions of fiscal responsibility, making sure we're being efficient with the taxpayer dollars, and using microtransit as it's intended to be, while also addressing the greatest customer complaints we've been getting. If we make these changes, we can provide more trips, have greater trip availability, have reduced wait times. And so we're hoping that people come along with us and can make that adjustment.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about communication. So we have a regular writer who has asked about the public address system on several occasions, and also the digital signage at stations. So are there any plans to improve that technology as you're improving the communication systems internally?
Sure, I can share my screen again and talk a little bit about this, if you don't mind.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, currently, so if people don't know or haven't seen any of the current installs, I've got a picture up on the screen that shows what the new system will look like. That new digital signage has been installed at 10 locations so far. We are going to be completing the remaining locations over the next year. And those signs, once we do an overall software update on our signaling, our railroad signaling and communication software later this spring, at that point, then we'll be able to turn on a feature that will allow for real-time train arrivals. So that sign that you see there will then state, you know, the next train will be arriving in X minutes. Hopefully that kind of explains what the plan is, the direction we're going, and the timeline that we're going there in.
Okay. Tim, can you outline, we just had a question, what stations some of those signs have already been implemented?
Boy, I don't have that information. Does anybody else on the panel know where those have been installed yet? Jessica's nodding her head.
Okay. Jessica, you're on mute if you actually do know a station or two.
Well, I'm sorry, I was thinking about how we have it at North County, but that's not this. That's
Okay.
inside the center. We can
Tim,
follow
if
up
you
on
could,
that.
yeah, if you want to provide that to us after, we will add that too. And how does that also impact the audio feedback? Is that a part of that signage system?
Yes, it'll all be renewed, a new system for the audio playback as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I'll try and find that before the session is done, Kim, and be able to hopefully tell everyone before we hang up here.
That's great. Thank you so much. So question, is there a plan for a rider survey anytime in the future to determine, are we meeting the needs of the riding community? Where are they going? What is the demographic breakdown of the St. Louis riding public?
We have those quarterly pulse surveys that BSD marketing puts out, and we have fare surveys a couple times a year. But we're really excited because in 2025, we're going to conduct a full onboard transit travel survey. We haven't been able to do it since COVID. So for all the riders out there, please, be willing to engage with the surveyor if they approach you this spring. It's going to be conducted. There will be paper options, but electronically. And if you're taking a trip and you don't get to finish, standing with the surveyor and you have to alight or get off your vehicle before it's done, they can email you a link to the survey to finish up. So they'll be there with tablets conducting the survey. But yes, they'll be collecting basic origin destination information, where you're riding, why you're riding that day, how you paid. So it's more comprehensive and thorough, and it's going to be great for helping us understand how travel patterns have changed since the pandemic. So from our, urban planning data perspective, we are very thrilled to be finally getting to collect this information. And it's going to help inform a lot of our service planning decisions going forward. So that should be spring 2025 that you see surveyors out on the system.
Great, thank you. We're excited to see that data. So perfect. Tom, very specific question about the fare system. Will the smart cards be similar to the Ventra card used in Chicago? And will we be able to reload it online?
So generally speaking, yes. So Venture cards in Chicago are used to buy your rides on CTA and Pace. And they have an online account system that lets you manage your fare balance and bypasses or transit value via the website or their app. And so our system, I won't say that it will be exactly the same, but it will be very similar. So the smart cards will be reloadable. You'll be able to reload them via the website, or you can reload them at a ticket vending machine. And also through our network of vendor portals that will exist at places like Schnucks, et cetera. So it will be very similar, and they will be reusable and reloadable.
Great, thank you so much. So as a reminder, if you're on the call today, if you have any questions, please place them in the chat box and the Q&A. We have a couple more minutes before we will wrap up today. But as we look at potentially a service change, Jessica, in March, would that be the next time we would see a service change in the St. Louis region?
Yeah, the next change is scheduled for, I believe, Monday, March 17th. Let me just double check. And like I described earlier, the feedback that we've gotten so far from operators, from customers, from partners like St. Clair County Transit District, we're trying to tweak and refine what's out there and make fixes and corrections to the sort of much bigger scale change that went into place December 2nd. So anything you see in March is going to be reflective of perhaps a route where we had identified some heavier loads in the afternoon peak, and we know we need to add a little bit there. But for the most part, it's going to be tightening up bus to bus or bus to train connections. It's going to be changing a first AM trip because a few customers told us, look, I need it to come at 4:50 and not 5:05. Those kinds of things. Nothing major that would require any big operator overhaul, and nothing that's going to be a lot of new stuff for customers to learn.
Okay, great. So about a year ago, we had lots of news in the region about new light rail vehicles. For one rider wanted to know, when would we expect to see our first new light rail vehicle in this market?
Tim, do you have a more precise date? 2026?
I've heard 2027. So
Okay.
That's as precise as I can be.
Beginning of,
Beginning
right?
of 2027. That's what I've heard.
Okay,
And
great.
that's the first tranche, so not all of them.
As a reminder, how many new light rail vehicles will that be for the St. Louis region?
52, I believe.
52? Yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, so will Metrolink trains announce when station is approaching or display instead of just final stop? That one just came in hot off the presses.
So
So
they're talking, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead, Trinice.
are you talking the new trains?
So I think they're talking about the current trains. Will the Metrolink trains announce which station is approaching or display instead of just the final stop? I think they're talking about on the display potentially.
On the platforms?
Maybe. I'm trying to
Oh,
decipher
I
this
don't
as well.
think we're in the process of retrofitting the old trains with new displays and a new PA system on the trains. I believe we are having some discussions about the trains that we will have that will not go out of service once we receive the new trains, but we haven't made that final determination on that. But the new trains will be able to display that information.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. But before we wrap up today, first of all, I want to thank you all for your time today. But I want to make sure that we leave each of you an opportunity. Maybe it's an aha moment thought that you've had. But what should riders in the St. Louis market know from the four of you on what's to come in 2025? And what do you, as an employee of Metro, think is going to be the most exciting, or maybe not even exciting, an amenity, a project that's really going to help move transit forward in the region and meet the needs of our riders?
I'll give it a shot first. So
Okay.
we know that we have very aged fare equipment. So the TVMs, the bus fare boxes and all, they're really beyond their expected lifetime for usage. So we're excited to have a brand new equipment being added because we think that there will be fewer problems for our customers when they're utilizing the system. Obviously, new is almost always better. And we are proud that we're not taking away any of the options that people have today, such as cash, which we expressed earlier. I think that what we're trying to do is put the customer first. And I think that the new equipment will provide new flexibility and also reliability so that you don't walk up to a TVM or something and have it be out of service just due to the age of the equipment itself. There's also changes that have been made in regard to security for the use of credit and debit cards that will make us PCI compliant or payment card industry compliant with the new systems. That's important for the security of people's information that are using the system using electronic payments. So that's what I'm excited about.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Kim.
Well, I can go next. The past 4 years have been very interesting as it relates to bus reliability, right? Based on our manpower, we've struggled. But now we're back to where we need to be to fulfill the service requirements that's put out by our planning department. So our focus this year is on bus reliability. We have upgraded our AVL software in our bus dispatch center. That software now will be able to provide some additional information to some of the vendors that we use to push out customer information. So we're working on that. My biggest project this year is to work on a bus rail connection, and where we can display the bus rail connections to both bus and rail customers, real-time information with real-time information. So that's my biggest project this year.
Great. That's great to hear. Tim, Jessica?
I'll go and then Jessica can wrap up if that's all right, Jessica.
Sure.
I think for me, the excitement of the secure platform project, getting that wrapped up and operational will be a big achievement for not only our group but the entire agency. I think it will go a long ways in helping secure the future of Metrolink. And then from a selfish standpoint, we've got a lot of projects going on, and for an engineering geek like myself, it's good to see those projects moving forward, and we're going to try our best to minimize impacts on our patrons. So that's always something that we keep in the back of our mind of how we can do the needed maintenance, the needed infrastructure improvements, all the while keeping our patrons moving. So that's what I would like to concentrate on over the next year. I did get the list of the 10 stations where the signage is installed. I will read them real quick. Emerson Park, JJK, Washington Park, College, 5th of Missouri, East Riverfront, Convention Center, 8th and Pine, Cortex, Union Station, and Forest Park to Bolivar.
Thank you. Thank you. And Tim, with regards to those engineering projects that are coming up, are there any other stations that people should be aware of that will be under maintenance or under construction in the coming months?
No station closures like we have at Convention Center.
Okay.
We will be having a lot of single track evening work at Union Station, and that project is a long-term project. It won't be every night that we're single tracking, but we will have a lot of single tracks over the next 3 years on that project. And then also in the coming months, it probably won't be in 25, but probably in early 26 by the time we receive our parts in. We'll be installing a new switch in our rail system out near or to the west of Forest Park to Bolivar. That won't have any closures, but it will require a couple weekend shutdowns where we shift the rails over and whatnot. So not this year, but probably early 26 we'll be seeing that activity going on, but it won't be a long-term closure like we have at Convention Center.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tim. Jessica, any final thoughts?
Sure, I guess I would echo when I hear what my colleagues have talked about. What springs to mind for me for 2025 is we are executing and implementing on things that have long been in the works, right? So whether it is real-time information, or it is these state of good repair projects, or it's new fare collection system, things that we've been working toward and acknowledging need improvement, but take a lot of time to build to, we're going to start seeing more and more of that come to life. So we appreciate customers' patience with us as we've been moving through, and we ask for it as we continue in the coming years, because, you know, we're not fully a legacy system in all sorts of ways, but we are in some. And so we are doing our best to keep our eye, you know, down the road while also making needed improvements and being responsive to customers right now. But as Trini said, this is a year about reliability. It's the restorations we've been able to make for service. I'm hopeful that we have stability this year as well. That is the plan, and that's what we've built ourselves up for. One other kind of side project that I want to make sure we mentioned that didn't come up today was electrification at the DeBolivar garage. That should be coming online this year, and we have not only another 10 or 12 fully battery electric, but that I think are going into development in this calendar year. A year from now, I think they'll start to see some hybrids getting developed. So we're just continuing to push on, knowing our responsibility and, you know, the transportation industry's role in sustainability and making those kinds of improvements. So that is another area that we're trying to keep pushing forward.
Great. So I want to thank all of you for your time today and answering all of the questions that we have, you know, handed you this morning. and we really appreciate your transparency. And even if it isn't the best answer or what riders want to hear, that you're willing to chat about it and providing information on timing and things like that. I think that's really helpful for riders to know if a station's construction is going to be going on a little longer. Providing that information is really good up front, and things about frequency and changes. So we really appreciate your transparency today. I want to thank everyone who has joined us on the call this morning. This recording will be available on our website this afternoon. If there were any questions we didn't get answers to, we will try and get those answers still and provide that in the recap blog as well. And if you have any additional questions or comments, you can reach out to CMT at info@cmt-stl.org. And as Jessica said, we'll hunt her down or anyone else we need to get the information from. But we do really appreciate your time today. I did also want to let everyone know that we will be hosting the State of Transit in the Region 2025 next Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning. And that's going to look a little bit more at the big picture. What are the big capital projects being discussed or under construction, while this was much more focused on operations? So any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great rest of your day and enjoy that snow. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kim.